the one source, Sports Card Nation. The hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 376 of Sports Card Nation podcast. Rizzo Shaffer is back in the house today for part two of our conversation. And always love having Lauren on. She's just a sweet person. And, we talk about good people in the hobby, right? She checks all those boxes. And then some, and we obviously have a lot in common. Crocheting is not one of them, but setting up as shows as a dealer. And we talked a little bit about that in episode one. Last week's episode, part one. So Lauren is back, and try to have her on, at least once a year, if not more than that. So with that being said, let's start the show. All right, let's get into another topic. And I know I ask you this kind of every time you're on because I value your opinion. You're in the trenches, so to speak, as a dealer, as a consumer, as a content creator. As a woman in the hobby, where, here as we start 2026, have we made enough strides? Are things going in the right direction? Or is there room? There's always room for improvement. I don't want to say like, oh, everything's great, we're good. But I guess is that trajectory or that pace fast enough? Maybe that's a better one to ask you.
I mean, I think like you said, it's never enough. It's probably never fast enough. It's probably never, it's just, I mean, not to be a defeatist, but yeah, I think there's just always room for improvement. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a defeatist attitude. I think it's just, anything that deviates from the status quo is difficult. Change is hard for people. And that's not to say that, women collecting cards is, a game changer for women's rights or anything. But, sports cards are historically a male space. It's just a fact. And women haven't always been welcome. And there have been many pioneers who have stuck with it because they loved it from, the start when they were kids. And, I think there will always be room for improvement, but I definitely think that it's worth saying that there have been great strides made in the last few years. Personally, I think, I see a lot more young girls at this last Dallas show. There was a young girl. She was probably like 12-ish, and she was doing her own deals with Brian. And they were not like, $10, $20 cards. It was like $1,200 card deals. And she did it all on her own. She did negotiating. She did the back and forth. She actually came to our table on the first deal like 7 times before they got it done. And it was great. It was great to see how comfortable she was running around a card show and felt safe and felt confident. That was a big thing. She was confident and she was just very comfortable in the environment. And I think that was one of my favorite parts of this last show, because it did just feel good to see a young girl who is very comfortable in the space. And, everybody has, lessons to learn and things that are difficult. You make a mistake, you buy the wrong card, whatever. But she was, only like 11 or 12, and she's doing deals, and she's, shaking hands, and she's getting it done. And she, and Brian wasn't going to give her a discount because she's a kid. They negotiated on the price, and they this is where I'm coming from. This is where you're coming from. How are we going to meet in the middle? And I thought that was just a great example of the space that's been built and created by women who have been doing work and making that effort for decades. And it's culminating. It's starting to really show, I think. And I think that that's great. Like you said, there's always room for improvement, but like the strides that have been made, and the girls that are standing on the shoulders of women that came before them, it's great. We're in a great trajectory, I think. And I hope it stays. I hope that, that continues. And I hope I see more girls like that, and women, because I know even myself, I'm not always comfortable or confident in, in a room or doing a deal. And I hope that there are more women who, enter the space, at their own pace, but feel comfortable and feel confident. And, they're doing their part. So it is up to, the people that they're interacting with to kind of take the baton at some point. And some will and some won't. But I think it's, it credit to the entire space that people are realizing, oh, I didn't know that this was a burden and that this is a hurdle. And we can make this space better for everybody. And I think that that's great. I think we're on a good trajectory. And yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, even here on a micro level, if you will, here in Central New York, Lauren, I'm seeing a lot more, like you said, female collectors, female dealers. Even even if I'm even seeing a lot of families at shows, including
Mm-hmm.
a spouse or a significant other that's female that maybe not in the hobby, but supporting the kids and the dad or
Yeah.
whoever. But I'm seeing, like you said, a lot more female collectors who are active. And I think, again, I don't want to paint with a broad brush, but I think the hobby is more accepting of that than ever before. Now, again, we've got room to grow and improve and be better. But I think it's easier, and you can tell me if you agree. I think it's easier to be a woman collector today than 2, 3 years ago, or even further back. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't some people who are resistant or not as accepting, but there's a lot less of that going on than before, and it's easier today. And like you said, a lot of that's being paved by women who've done it for a long time. And so, but I enjoy seeing that, and you know, I've told the story on this podcast before. I've been set up near a dealer who's maybe not as encouraged by it as me. And I've had those conversations with him, like, what's your issue?
Mm-hmm.
To be blunt honest with you, like, well, whatever they say doesn't make any sense. And I just try to, like, hey, man, what difference does it make, you know, male, female, color? Like, this should, like, this is 20, we're in the 2000s, man. Like, this is like a really archaic take and stance. And like, well, that's the way it's always been. That's not the answer, man. Just that's the way that's always been.
Yep.
Gets businesses, closed, and things go bad. So, like, you can't. That's a cop out answer. Whenever I hear that,
Mm-hmm.
but I think today we're in there's a lot less of that. That's the way it's always been than before. But it's still around enough where this is a conversation point that I have, and hopefully that continues. Like I said, that trajectory continues in the right direction. I think it will. I don't think it's gonna. I don't want to jinx that, but I don't think it's gonna get worse. It just has to get even better as time goes on, and people figure the light bulbs go on with certain other folks, if you will. Let's bring that to cardboard. I think we've seen big strides in the female athletes on cardboard, whether that be WNBA, wrestling, even other sports, soccer. The list goes on and on. Would you agree there? And if not, in kind of a two-pronged question, what can be done more maybe in that sort of areas to even make that area better?
That's a great question. I think I think we are in a great space with cards and what's produced. I'm trying to think to how to get to this. So obviously Caitlin Clark was a huge deal 2024, 2025. And I'll be honest, at the time when it was really booming, I felt it was unsustainable. Her prices, I didn't think there was, and it wasn't a reflection of her. I just think no matter what she did, she was never going to live up to the value of some of her cards. And that's not a reflection of her. I think that's just a reflection of like how insane the market was. And that's not to say that women's cards won't appreciate. It's just the crazy cash grabs that were happening it reminded me a lot of like Luca in 2020. and like his like base, like prisms and prism silvers were like, there were tons of them, but they were selling for crazy money. And and people were selling them to flip them. And I saw a lot of parallels to Caitlin Clark, that a lot of collectors were not collecting them because they liked her game, or they liked watching her, or they liked the sport. They saw easy, quick cash. And the product prices, the retail prices, that reflected it. It priced, some people out, which is unfortunate. One of my friends, he said, you know what, everybody else can buy into the breaks and buy the boxes, and I will be trolling eBay for my singles very happily, joyously. I'll be doing that. And, people had to kind of adjust how they were, collecting because of the influx of dollar signs. So I was worried that with and I was hoping I'd be wrong. And I might still be, who knows, but I was worried that with the unsustainability of her market, that it would then cause people to turn on women's cards and not want to support them, and not want to be, they already were not always kind. People coming into that space were not kind to, traditional, like we'll say WNBA, will stay on Caitlin Clark. They weren't always kind to traditional WNBA collectors, and that was hard to see. But, they're seeing, kind of a bell curve of, okay, it's really intense. It's really, really high price. There's a lot of emotions. There's a lot of energy. And now it's kind of starting to mellow back out to where people are like, okay, it will self-regulate back to the way it was. And hopefully there will be more people who, caught the wave and enjoyed it and want to stay on it with us. But hopefully all the people who were like angry and upset and, trying to make a buck off of it are going to weed themselves out. So that was a big thing. I think that, we kind of had to push through. And I don't think we're on the other side of that, quite yet. But I do think that the positive aspects are definitely coming to the surface, and have been maybe for like the last 6 months, in that there are more collectors. There's more knowledge. There's more care. There's more data, because it's been, there's been more sales of things other than just Caitlin Clark, because there had to be, So I think that that's been, for all the warts and bumps, it has been good. And I hope that it will continue to be good. So we'll see. But I think for, and for wrestling, which we've only kind of recently really gotten into it. It's been really interesting because women actually, it's not like male, female. A lot of the superstars, depending on where they're at and what they're like, they're like neck and neck, like some of the superstars will sell the same. And that's really interesting to see. And I think that's going to be something for people to look out for, especially because Panini lost the license last year and now it's on to Topps. So, Panini products are going to become more scarce, but Topps products might be more in demand. We'll see. But I think it's a really interesting time for women's sports and collecting women's sports. So I know a lot of people asked while we were at Dallas for, I think mostly wrestling. They were like, is it too late to get into wrestling? Of course they're thinking like, dollar signs. So they're trying to calculate, is this going to be an investment I'll regret, or is this an investment that I'll like, feel good about? And we said like, no, it's not too late, because if it's something you're interested in and it's something you enjoy, I think more people are going to be invested in it, and and it's a great community, blah, 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 all the reasons. But
well, if you love it, not to cut you off, if you love it and enjoy it, that's not even a question. Is it too late? Because if you love it and enjoy it,
we had a hard time answering, because we're like, well, no, but then trying to like put our hat on of like, okay, we're talking to a customer, we're like, no, it's never, and then we're like, looking at it through a different lens. But I think we're in a good spot. I think we're on an upward trajectory, and I think I think, there's always growing pains in certain aspects. And I mean, the hobby as a whole went through growing pains over the last decade. And I err on the side of optimism. I think overall, we benefit from growth and change. So.
Yeah, and the whole Kate, I'm glad you mentioned her because, and it's not her fault, right?
Hmm.
But she, like, for people who don't know or not that, you would think she's the only WNBA player.
Right.
The way that's all people talk about, and she's a great player. I'm not
Hmm.
taking that away from her, but it's almost like a double-edged sword. Like she helps the hobby
Yeah.
and hurts it. And when I say hurt, I mean not her personally, but
Right.
just the whole phenomenon where people don't give enough of the other of our contemporaries credit as well. And then I think sometimes that hurts. And we saw some of that stuff uh, on even on the court where people were resentful that she was getting a lot of shine, or people were just talking about her a lot, and sort of making comments or being a little more physical with the fouls during the games. And listen, she was uh, perfect with it. She didn't. I don't know how you want to word it, but she responded accordingly. She didn't. She just kept playing her game and promoted the sport she loved and the league
Hmm.
that she was in. But sort of, like you said, people saw dollar signs with her, and that's why they came in. And that's not even just a women's sports thing. That's
Right.
across the board. That's across the board. We saw a lot of that, especially in the COVID crescendo year and a half. A lot of people who aren't even cut, like, just from the sneaker industry, just said, "Hey, this is the
Yeah.
next big thing. I'll put my sneakers in the closet. Let's do this now." And like you said, those people to each their own. But when the smoke clears and the dust settles, right? People who really love the cards and the sport will stick around, and those that are just seeing an S with two lines running up and down through it will probably exit stage left. That all kind of shakes itself out. But sometimes when there's an individual athlete on that sort of trajectory, you get that double-edged sword. It's good, it's great, and it can be bad at the same time. Through no fault of, in this case, Caitlin Clark. She's just going
Right.
out there trying to play basketball, sport she loves. Like, that's all secondary to her, all the business dealings
Hmm.
and whatnot. So, and again, you see, it's not a women's sport thing. It's not a women athlete thing. That's just that happens across the board in any hobby, business, whatever you want to put.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
We are back.
Want to talk about a little bit about writing? You write as I do, and I think everyone thinks it's easy, and some
Hmm.
days it's easier than others, Lauren. But there's moments even with me where I'll like, what do I want to talk about? What do I want to write about? And when I tell people that, they're like, "Dude, you can talk about anything. How do you have a writer's block?" I'm like, it's
Sometimes
crazy,
that's
but
the
there's
problem. I can talk about
that
literally
is
anything.
that, and sometimes when you've written about so much, like, I don't try. I'm guilty of doing that, but I try not to write about the same thing too often.
Right.
Sometimes you got to revisit a topic. Kind of speak to that as a writer in the hobby, hitting that sort of wall. How do you get past it, and that sort of thing.
Well, I am working on getting past it. I have not written for collectibles on SI in a couple months, and that was not planned. It
But
just
I'll defend you here. I'll defend you here because I know exactly. And the way you said it with your tone, you're sort of. I think you're being a little too down on yourself. Sometimes that's what you need to do.
yeah,
I've done that, right?
unfortunately.
I'm going to take a break until I don't want to write about something. And again, I want to speak for you here. I'm speaking for myself. I don't
Mhm.
want to write about something and feel like I'm just doing it because I have to do it. I have a deadline,
Right.
so I really don't care. But here you go. here it is, And so I've done that too, where I've like, hey, I'm gonna like put the notepad down, or I'm gonna close the laptop because I'm not feeling this. And then when you sort of like do that, at least in my case, you can tell me when you go away from something, then that light bulb may go on at some point. Might not be
Mhm.
the next day. It might not even be the next week. It may be somewhere. And then when that light bulb comes on, and then you open that laptop, you open that notepad back up, and I think there's nothing wrong with taking a break. I've even said that with the hobby. Sometimes
Mhm.
people like message me, John, like I'm burnt out from the hobby. Like don't do anything for the hobby for 2 weeks, and then until you miss it, if you
Yep.
miss it, and then I think it's like that with writing too. So I know you were I just kind of wanted to kind of stick up for you. You tell me like, no, that's just you, John. But
No, you're right.
no, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I wanted to throw just
I
interject there.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
I
but
do
go ahead.
appreciate that. Yeah, because it's a bummer because I do like it and I really like the team and I really enjoy doing it. But just the last maybe I guess gosh almost 18 months have just been kind of there's been a lot. There's just been a lot for me to process and I just I was something had to give and I was just not my brain was just not operating the way I wanted it to. And I also didn't feel like I was producing it was becoming like actually hard. Like it was taking a toll on me. I was like anxious and like not thinking straight and like overwhelming myself and then I was constantly thinking about topics and this and that. And so I just kind of unintentionally took a break and so I'm hoping that I will, it'll come back to me because sometimes you do just got to sit down and force yourself. Fortunately, I get to do it because I like it and it's not my livelihood. So I've, just kind of been trying to take my time to get back to a clear headspace where I feel like I can process better. And I've never stopped loving cards and collecting and the community and stuff, but I've had to approach it differently over the last year. Not for any like specific reason. Like like gossip or drama. It's just, things change, times change, life
Well,
happens. And
well, here's
I,
the other thing. Here's the other thing. I'm gonna stick up for you again
yeah.
too. We just talked about you're setting up at shows, you're doing shows, you're going to shows. You have a life outside of cards. At least I hope so. I know you
Hmm.
do, as do I. Right? That's can be tricky. And I think again, I don't know what percentage you want to put on it. Most writers are writing about a subject that they're not necessarily involved in. They're just covering it.
Right.
We're writing in our cases, we're writing about and we're active in it too. So it's not like we're just writers and that's our job, 40 hours a
Right.
week. We have regular livelihoods, and then we have the hobby, and then we're writing about the hobby. So I think that's a factor in it too. Like if someone said, John, you're going to stay a writer, but you're going to cover like Wall Street, it might even be easier. Not that I know Wall
Right.
Street. I do. I know enough where I could probably pass. But I can do it because I'm not doing Wall Street 38 hours, on top of that.
Right.
But when you're in the hobby already and then you're covering it as a writer, a lot of people would think, well, that's easy, but it's not as easy as people will probably think. And and you do it long enough, again, there's plenty of topics, but you do it long enough and you cover a good majority of them. And one thing and again, I'm guilty of it, but I try not to like do something I've done already. Or if I do, I like to have it be years before I touch on
Mm,
it again. That way, it's almost like an update. I don't want to 3 months later talk about something I talked about 3 months ago. Can you do it? Sure, you can do it. But I like to give it a little more breathing. It's like a wine. Let it breathe a little bit. It's too easy, I think, to do that. So I think that's the case too, right? I think sometimes it's easier to be a writer in a space you're not directly involved in, um, than in one that you are. Because I think then you're a little too critical, right, of yourself. Like, am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? Am I
Mm-hmm.
giving someone a pass? Am I giving someone a pass too much because maybe they're a nice person? And so it's always a catch-22 when if you're not involved and you're just covering something because it's sort of that job, you can just cover it and just
Right.
like, hey, here's how I see it. This person did this, or this company did that, and this is what happened. It almost becomes like a news report,
Mm-hmm.
and you let the chips fall. When you're in it yourself, it changes the whole dynamic of the story. It makes it, to me, it makes it even harder.
Yeah.
And so, not just time wise, but like, hey, I don't want to be too soft here, but I also
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be too harsh here. And then if I go in the middle, someone will say, "Ah, you're vanilla." So
Mm-hmm.
now you can't win for losing. So sometimes it can be tricky. So, and again, this, you write about someone's good, you get five people like, "Oh man, I love that piece," and you get two people like, "That sucked." Right? Well, who's right? The two people or the
Right.
five, right? So it is what it is. I try to be true to myself. I don't want to necessarily throw anyone under the bus and back over them, but I
Mm-hmm.
also don't want to sugarcoat it where someone says, "Man, that you softball piece or fluff piece." And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard. And there's times I've written something, Lauren, I'm sure where I thought I was harsh enough, if you will, or accurate enough, and someone will message me like, "Man, you let them off the hook," or whatever the top, without mentioning names. And I'm like, I thought I was a little rough on them, to tell you the truth. Oh, so again, you can't please everybody,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to writing. You do the best you can, but it can get tricky. And I get it where you hit that wall and you're like, I don't know, or I just don't want to do it right now. I'm just not
Mm-hmm.
feeling it, right? That could be right. It could be a lot of other things. It could be hobby. I've had weekend. I call it like weekend sabbaticals where I'm not touching a card. I'm not looking at a card. I'm not turning the microphone on. I'm not watching anyone else's stuff. I'm not listening to. I'm not mad. I'm not.
Right.
I need to decompress. I need a break. And
Yep.
I think sometimes, Lauren, we don't do enough of that, and that's where the burnout. That's where burnout sets in, and then you risk like, hey, I just don't enjoy this anymore. I'm
Mm-hmm.
leaving. And I don't want to see anyone leave something, at least if they enjoyed it at least at one point. Sometimes, I know it's cliche, but sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? It's
Yep.
true. The times where I've taken 2 weeks and not I've pre-recorded stuff and loaded it in the hopper and it's done. I may not miss a show, but for 2 weeks I haven't really done anything hobby wise, and I miss it. And I know that's how I know I'm passionate. I love it. I was
Yep.
a nice 2 weeks off, but I'm ready to get back on the horse and ride again, so to speak. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. And for some people, it might be a couple of days. For someone else, it might be a week. I've had people write me, Lauren, and say, I took a year break and like I'm back. I knew I was coming back. I didn't quit. I
Right.
just needed to I didn't put a time frame on it. I knew a break. It wound up being a year. And guess what? Here I am again. So
Mm-hmm.
when I get if I get a message like that, I'm like, do whatever works for you. There's no template here. It's whatever works for you. We all have different personalities and quirks. That's the beauty of it. And so
Yeah.
um, there's no wrong answer. And I think that applies to writing as well. And for you, I don't want to, again, I'm speaking to you. I don't speak for you. When that time is right or that light bulb goes on, you'll know it. And I think that's where the best writing actually comes from, if you ask me, is when you enjoy doing it, right? It's when you feel like you're going through the motions. I don't think you're going
Mm-hmm.
to be at your best. That's sports, right? You hear athletes say, I should, I've read a book, athletes book, like, and they in their own autobiography said, listen, I probably should have retired 2 years before I did. I went through the motions. I wasn't
Right.
enjoying, but I felt pressure, whether it be from family or fans or even from a team organization as well. Hey, we need you. Hey, give us another year. Um, you hear those kinds of stories. So, and then anytime you go through the motions, I don't think you're going to be at your best. I mean, there's some people might be above that, and God bless them, but I know with me that's not the case.
Right.
Uh, but you know, and again, you're doing so many other things, right? I think that's a factor too. I think it. I don't want to say be worse, but be different if you weren't and you were at that point.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so many slices of pie. You gotta, wherever your passion lies in the moment or in the day, the week, the month, the year. No one. I always tell people, no, I always get questions, Lauren. Like someone will message me, "What do you think I should do?" or "What would you do?" And I'm like, no one knows you better than you. I may
Yeah.
know who you are. We may be friends. I may know a little about you more than someone else, but at the end of the day, no one knows you better than you. So I can give you and all it would be was an opinion, but at the end of the day, you're your own CEO of yourself. So you have to make the best. If you want to say I'm a business and I'm the CEO of me, you've got to make the best business decision for you, right? Who knows yourself better than you? You can ask someone can ask my opinion, but it's still got to be their decision and what they're comfortable with. And I think
Yeah.
that's how you should approach it. But you'll figure it out. You're very smart and intelligent, and probably more so than I am. You should be,
Nah.
But as always, I appreciate you coming on. I enjoy talking to you, whether it's this way, off the air, in person, hobby hotline. You're awesome, and thanks for chopping it up with it. I always give the guests, Lauren, where people can see what you're doing. Whether it be website, social media. Take your time, give wherever you want to steer anybody. Go ahead and give that stuff out.
Well, right now, because as you were talking, I was thinking like, yeah, I actually stitched a lot of cards last year and didn't post any of them. I've just been doing it because I can again and I like it again, and that's how this writing thing has been going. So, my main thing is my Instagram at LaurenGoesHere. I'm not posting on there a lot. I'm coming on here and there, but more so now. I was kind of cold turkey for a minute, so I am there if you want to check me out. But right now I'm just kind of I'm still focusing on like the tangible aspect of what I like and how to spend my time and trying to get back into writing again too. So, but if you do need to find me or want to find me, Instagram's probably the best place to start. So
There you go. Yep, and incredible with the stitching. I have seen some of the ones you've posted of late. I can't barely tie my shoe, so I wouldn't even know where to start. Now my grandma, rest her soul, she was quite the crocheter. Not with cards, but I wonder if she could have done that if like I showed her, like if I showed her what you were doing. I wonder if she could have done it in her
I'm
own
sure
right.
she could.
I would have just had her made me stuff. Instead, I got I got blankets which are beautiful and
Mm,
doilies, cloths, and end table covers. So, I'm kidding. But she might have been able to do it. But you do. That being said, you do incredible work there, and sometimes, right? You pour yourself into something else, and then maybe you'll miss it and
mhm.
get back to it when you feel the time is right. And you're an incredible writer, so I'd rather you write when you're feeling it than when you're not. We can say that again, whether that's an athlete, a writer, whatever, the content creator, doesn't matter, right? You do your best work when you're really passionate and feeling it. So nothing to apologize for, and we'll see you again. So as always, we're getting close to the national. We didn't even touch on that. But maybe we'll have to do another episode closer to the national, kind of chop that up
Happily, I'd
a
love
little bit
to.
more. So, thanks, Lord.
All right, thanks, John.
Like I said, always love having Lauren on the show. Very intelligent, bright person, and asset to the hobby. Regardless, male, female, does not matter. And that's something, I'm proud of. That even as a 7-year-old kid, I had female young friends at the time that kind of collected some cards or movie cards and that sort of thing. So it's always sort of been the norm, if you will. I know that it's not predominant, but very important to me to see that, more of that. So, and Lauren's leading the way, if you will. So we'll have her back sometime in the near future. But, like I said, have a lot in common with her, with being a show dealer. We're teammates on Hobby Hotline and that sort of thing. So hope you enjoyed part 2. And if you missed part 1, just go back 1 week and it's right there waiting for you. All right, we're going to get to wrapping up the episode with some closing thoughts here. Thanks, everybody.
Time for our Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week.
Hey, this is Jeremy with BST Sport Cards, the platform that has no seller fees. Just want to remind everyone, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People Announcer of the Week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.